I still remember the moment like it was yesterday. The conference room, fluorescent lights humming overhead, the air conditioner rattling like a distant storm. We were all crammed around the polished mahogany table at Carlyle Media Group's headquarters, sipping our fourth cups of stale office coffee and chewing over whether our next season of real estate makeover shows would feature makeovers in Detroit or Des Moines. And then, like a pebble thrown into a still pond, I raised my hand. Actually, I said, voice steady even though my heart felt like it was tap dancing in my chest. I'd love to propose a wildlife documentary series. Silence fell so fast it felt like the click of a latch. I met the bored gaze of our executive producer, Marlene, who looked up from her phone. A wildlife documentary series? She repeated, tone practically dripping with disdain. We're a lifestyle network. Our viewers want kitchen hacks, backyard pool tips, luxury RV tours. They don't want your, what did you call it, safari? Big cats? Mosquitoes? Chasing a zebra across the Serengeti. I swallowed. It's educational, emotional. It's stories we've never told on any network in America. I forced a smile. I really think there's an audience. Her laugh was smooth and cruel, the kind you hear in old movies when the villain braces for triumph. Honey, you're dreaming. You have no safari experience, no production credits outside of those holiday wine tasting specials. You're delusional if you think CBS affiliates will pick up anything that isn't about cleaning your grout or the top 10 TikTok dances. Heads nodded dutifully. A few colleagues sneered. Even Glenn, our junior intern, the network's social media prodigy, chuckled and tapped a thumbs down emoji on Marlene's Slack post about it. I bit my lip. My palms burned. I wanted to say, you'll see. But instead I nodded and sank back into my chair, shrapnel of humiliation ricocheting through my mind. 3 days later, I was cleaning out my office, boxing up the few personal items I'd accumulated, pictures from our last holiday party, a framed certificate from my Cornell degree, a novelty llama-shaped stress ball from my college roommate, when my phone buzzed with a text from my best friend Tara. You okay? Heard about the meeting. Don't let them kill your spark. I typed back, thanks Tara, just feels like my spark got stomped on. She replied instantly, stomping sparks =, starting fires. Let's have burritos tonight. My treat. I exhaled, a tremor of gratitude warming my chest. Burritos and laughter sounded like just the thing to patch up my self-esteem. That evening, we met at El Lobo Cantina, where journalists and grad students flocked for margaritas served in fishbowl-sized glasses. I downed a street taco and nursed a lime-frosted margarita while Tara grilled me on my next steps. What are you going to do? She asked, flipping a ring on her finger. Stay here and pretend you buy into their lifestyle network's nonsense, or carve your own path. I chewed my lower lip. I don't know. I have bills. I love parts of this job. My team's great. And I'm supposed to speak at that MediaCon thing in Atlanta next month. She waved a tortilla chip like a wand. You'll speak about what? How to pitch people on things they hate. No way. You should speak about chasing your dream, like a real storyteller. Imagine that, I snorted. Chasing my dream doesn't pay health insurance. She tapped my arm. Guess what? You have savings. And no kids. You can take a risk. I'll buy you that round. She flagged the waiter. Her words buzzed in my brain as I lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling, 4 walls of viral video marketing posters shimmering in the glow of my phone. I realized something vital. Marlene and the network didn't own wildlife stories. I did, and if I didn't tell them, someone else would. The next morning, instead of heading to the office, I showed up at my local PBS station, spark plug of regional documentaries, armed with my preliminary treatment, 3 years of sketches, shot lists, species notes, interviews with rangers and African curators I'd conducted via phone. I'd spent late nights researching camera rigs, self-shooting sample clips in nearby state parks, even teaching myself editing on Final Cut. Every moment outside the office had lurched toward this idea. I found the development director, a spirited woman named Linda, in a glass-walled office adorned with framed stills of bald eagles and redwood forests. She looked up, brow arched, as I rattled off my pitch. I want to go to East Africa to document the Great Migration, the lions, the wildebeest, the courage of the Thompson's gazelle crossing crocodile-infested rivers. Her lips quirked. Ambitious. She stood, walked around her desk, and shook my hand. You wrote your own position description. I like that. My heart hammered. I can raise some funds, start with a pilot. I have a crew in mind, small budget, high impact. She tapped her pen. We have a small documentary fund, $25,000 for local producers. If you can do a short pilot in the Serengeti, just 2 weeks, let me see your budget and crew list by Friday. If it works, we'll put it in front of the board. I stood so fast, I knocked over a chair. Friday. You'll have it. I practically ran out of her office, adrenaline numbing my senses. Back in the office, my desk was piled with follow-up demands. Where's that draft script for the grill cleaning segment? Can you weigh in on the holiday gift guide blog? I blinked at my pile of sticky notes, then opened my laptop. Here, would you write a more catherine to as sticky notes, then open my laptop. Fingers flew over the keyboard, line items for camera hire, permits for park access, flights for crew, insurance, local liaisons, translator fees, 8-minute edit sample. I spent the next 3 days burrowed in conference rooms, PowerPoint slides flickering on screens, prepping for PBS. I kept one eye on my Outlook calendar, corporate meetings at 9 a.m, PBS budget review at 3 p.m, and inched forward, fueled by coffee and stubborn hope. On Friday at 3 p.m, I slipped into Linda's office with a printed binder thicker than any quarterly report I'd ever assembled. She and the board's 2 external advisors scanned the figures, asked pointed questions about logistics, safety, storytelling arc. My pulse ricocheted, voice smooth as I answered, "We'll use remote SICAMs for nighttime lion behaviors. We have lodge permits for the Mara Triangle." This segment on gazelle survival, 1 second of footage per 4 days of filming, will be gold if cut tightly. I watched their faces shift from skeptical to intrigued. Then Linda said, "This is the most thorough these guys have seen. Board meets in 2 weeks, and I think you have a shot." 2 weeks. That felt like forever. My stomach was a nest of butterflies, but when I left, clutching my binder, I felt alive. Those 2 weeks were the busiest of my life. I coordinated with a producer friend, Marcus, who'd worked on a small BBC nature series. We locked in a skeleton crew, 1 sound guy, 1 cameraman, 1 local guide. We negotiated with an airline for standby tickets. We scrounged for an extra $5,000 in crowdfunding from our personal networks, a few neighbors, our college hiking club, some wildlife lover forums. We rented a lightweight Sony PXW FS7 camera body to go with our Canon L series lenses. By the time I walked into the PBS boardroom again, I had a volunteer driver, a conservation biologist's letter of support, and a rough outline of how a 60-minute documentary could break into 4 8-minute cinematic vignettes. I launched the treatment, a sweep-rise animation of the planet, zooming into the Serengeti, ground-level shots of footprints and dust, gunmetal claws of lion paws extending, interviews with rangers whispering in grass about the delicate ballet of survival, and at the close, a shot of a single sunset silhouette of a juvie lion cub roaring into the dark. The board, dozen faces aglow in overhead light, watched in silence, then erupted in applause. "Approved unanimously," said the station manager. I blinked. Tears formed unbidden. I swallowed hard. "Thank you. I won't let you down." That night, I celebrated with Tara and Marcus at a rooftop bar. We clinked grapefruit-muddled cocktails under string lights and laughed too loud, high-fiving as I recounted each hurdle. I barely slept that night, drifting between dreams of sun-bleached savannas and the hum of the office's after-hours HVAC. On Monday morning, I sent my resignation email to Marlene. She forwarded it to HR with a 1-word note, "Interesting." Then I packed up my desk, photos of my nephew's last birthday, a world's okayest employee mug from the Christmas exchange, the llama stress ball, and walked out, the air crisp with fall's arrival. A month later, I deplaned at Kilimanjaro International Airport, the humidity wrapping around me like a warm blanket. Baxter would have loved it. I wheeled my duffel through customs, found my local guide, Kama, waiting with a battered Toyota Land Cruiser, and 3 sets of wildlife-graded lenses. I climbed in, inhaled the red earth scent, and felt tears sting as I saw the ice-blue peak of Kili through the windshield. Over 10 days, we captured shots by dawn's glow, climbed termite mounds for a vantage over migrating wildebeest, hiked into the remote corners of the conservancy to film a mother rhino's care for her calf. Each night, under a canopy of stars denser than any I'd ever seen, we reviewed footage on our monitors, hearts pounding as we realized we'd found gold. When the footage returned to PBS, Marcus and I huddled in our editing suite. "Look at that," he said, pointing at the screen. A lioness emerging from silhouette, tail twitching, muscles coiled like springs. "That is cinema." I nodded, tears of pride and exhaustion glossing my eyes. This is what I've wanted my whole life. Now here we are, 3 years later. The series Heart of the Savannah will premiere on PBS next month. Today, though, was special, the day the network announced its shortlist for the Emmy for Outstanding Nature Documentary, and I was among the nominees. My phone lit up at 9 ms, of texts, congratulations, so well deserved. Watching at 8 on PBS, Mom's house party RSVP'd. I slipped into a rented blazer, slate gray Armani knockoff, and practiced my acceptance speech in front of the mirror. Thank you to my crew, to PBS, to the animals who trusted us. My palms still sweated at every rehearsal. At 6 p.m, I stood backstage at the Television Academy's gala. The hum of the ballroom seeped through the curtains, laughter, clinking glasses, someone's speech still echoing across the hall. My heart thudded so loud, I swear the mic could pick it up. I glanced at my phone one last time, a message from Marlene. Saw the list, you're on it, knock 'em dead. She had no idea how far that simple note cut through old doubts. As the announcer called my name, and the Emmy goes to Sarah Dawson for Heart of the Savannah, I stepped onto the stage, mouth slightly open in disbelief, ready to accept the golden statue under the glare of national television cameras. The laughter that once sealed me in a corporate cubicle had long since died. Now, at this moment, an incandescent hush, followed by thunderous applause, awaited me, and I realized this was everything I'd ever dreamed of, and more. And that was just the beginning. I never saw it coming, my big break mocked to my face by the very people I thought would champion me. It was a crisp Tuesday morning in early November when I tentatively knocked on executive producer Marlene's office door at Arcadia Lifestyle Network. I carried the prototype pitch deck in my hands, the culmination of 6 months of early morning research, late-night Zoom calls with wildlife biologists in East Africa, and my own savings earmarked for a single ambitious goal to launch the first wildlife documentary series on a network devoted to kitchens and condos. Marlene looked up from her phone, the overhead fluorescence catching the glitter of her crystal earrings. She gave me a slow, deliberate nod. "Sarah," she said, voice cool as granite, "tell me what you've got." I swallowed, placed my deck on her desk, images of acacia silhouettes at dawn, a stalking lioness in tall grass, and began, voice steady, despite the quiver in my chest. I'd like to propose Savannah Rising, 8 one-hour episodes following the Great Migration, exploring predator-prey dynamics, the human communities on the periphery, and conservation efforts that aren't getting national attention. Her eyebrow arched so high it nearly vanished into her hairline. She flipped through my slides, stats on viewership interest in environmental shows, focus group data indicating millennials' eagerness for eco-adventure, my planned partnerships with national parks and local NGOs. Then she set the deck aside. "A wildlife documentary," she echoed, as if tasting an exotic fruit and finding it bitter. She leaned back, steepling her fingers, "on a lifestyle network." She laughed, a crisp, dismissive sound that made my stomach twist. "Honey, we're the network where viewers count how many cleaning tasks they can do before the ad break, not the number of wildebeest crossing the plains. Our audience wants yacht party recaps, not crocodile hunts." I blinked. In the silence that followed, I felt the air grow thick, stylists combing hair in their chairs, assistants biting their lips, the low drone of computer fans. I forced myself to smile. "I understand your concern, but that same audience craves authenticity. They love heartfelt stories. Why not the story of a mother elephant defending her calf? I believe we can draw them in with narrative, not just metrics." Marlene pursed her lips. "You pitched me once before, a travel show about artisanal cheesemakers in Vermont. Remember how that went?" She tapped the desk. "Canceled after 2 episodes. No one wants to see a man sample brie in a barn." I opened my mouth, but the words I'd rehearsed, "Trust me, this will be different," dissolved in my throat. I nodded, yes, and turned to go, every click of my heels an echo of disbelief. Outside the office, the corridor stretched out like a gauntlet, sidelong glances, sympathetic smiles, small clusters of murmuring coworkers. In that moment, I felt small, an interloper in a world that measured success by square footage and makeover budgets. But as I sat at my desk that afternoon, troubled by the specter of failure, I remembered why I'd fallen in love with storytelling in the first place. In college, I'd spent a semester volunteering at the state park, interviewing rangers about wolf reintroduction. I'd felt the same thrill in unraveling those narratives as I did coaxing tears from an audience at my first journalism awards. And I'd never ever been deterred by a naysayer. That night, over beer and nachos with my best friend, Tara, I laid it all out. They laughed at me, I said, pressing a tortilla chip in my fingers until it bent. They think wildlife is a sideshow. She nodded, eyebrows furrowed. Then make it the main event, she replied. Why not pitch to PBS? They do nature features all the time. They have the audience. They have the credibility. They'll eat your deck alive, because it's exactly what they want. I stared at her. PBS? But I don't even know who to talk to there. She grabbed her phone. Then find out. Today. Send emails, make calls, pester until someone listens. She stood, finished her beer. You're too good to let this die. Let's do some digging. The next morning, bleary-eyed but energized, I scoured LinkedIn. I found a producer at KQED in San Francisco who directed Redwoods Rising. I drafted a concise message, who I was, what I wanted to achieve, and why Savannah Rising could be their next hit. I clicked send, heart pounding. Then, time to build momentum. I published a short blog post on Medium, Why America Needs a New Kind of Wildlife Show. 50 scrolls stopping Instagram stories featuring my own footage from a volunteer trip in Kenya, an email to National Geographic's editorial desk telling them I was assembling a dossier on the Serengeti's hidden matriarchal societies. Within hours, I had 2 LinkedIn replies, interest, queries for more details, and a Medium post going viral in environmental circles. Hit number 1 in wildlife trending topics. By Friday afternoon, I had 3 phone calls, one with a sympathetic associate producer at PBS's Nature series, one with a grant officer at the National Endowment for the Humanities, and one with my draft application to KQED's Local Lens Fund. My workstation was littered with post-its grant deadline, November 30th, draft storyboard, contact rangers for B-roll. I let myself believe maybe this was the spark I needed. Meanwhile, I told HR I was using vacation days to spearhead independent research. I cleared my calendar the next Monday and flew to San Francisco, armed with my pitch binder and a binder of emails from potential field partners, the rangers, the biologists, the NGO contacts. My meeting with PBS Nature's associate producer Evelyn was at a bright corner office overlooking the bay. Evelyn wore a field-worn Patagonia fleece, a pressed tee that read "Protect What You Love," and held my prototype deck with quiet intensity. I launched into my pitch. We follow 3 apex predators, lion, leopard, hyena, through one cycle of migration, intercut with a conservationist's diary and aerial cinematography from drones. I ended with my ask, a $100,000 pilot budget for 4 crews filming 2 weeks in the Mara and Serengeti, plus 6 months of post-production. She closed her eyes for a heartbeat, then opened them. This is bold, she said. Half the budget for full episodes on Nature is $75K, but your approach is cinematic. I love the multilingual narrative, local guides talking over their cells. I want to show my boss. Send me your detailed budget and crew list. She stood and extended her hand. Welcome aboard, Sarah. Let's make this happen. I nearly stumbled. Thank you. Thank you so much. Outside, I virtually ran to my cell to send the budget spreadsheet line items for camera rental, drone permits, editing, music licensing. Each cell felt like forging my own destiny. Back in New York, as I drafted that budget email, the office inbox pinged with forwarded LinkedIn messages from my old colleagues. Saw your Medium post, congrats. Just applied for your show's research program. Even Marlene, the one who'd laughed, sent me a text. Interesting pivot. Good luck, Sarah. I didn't respond. I had bigger fish to catch. That night, I lay in bed, my mind flashing through the Serengeti's golden light. The roar of lion cubs, the rustle of grasses. My husband's snores punctuated the darkness. I closed my eyes and whispered to myself, this is my dream job, and I'm living it. Weeks later, the pilot was greenlit. I found myself in Tanzania, under the equatorial sun, filming a lioness teaching her cubs to hunt. One evening, as we wrapped for the day, our camera operator from BBC, Marcus, pressed a coffee-stained letter from PBS into my hand. Congratulations, Sarah. Savannah Rising has been picked up for a full 8-episode season, airing nationally spring 2026. Tears blurred my vision as the open-air vehicle roared past a wind-tossed acacia. The laughter at that mahogany boardroom table felt like a distant nightmare. We returned to the U.S. for editing. In a packed media screening room at KQED, community members from Oakland to the Hamptons, Watch the first rough-cut aerial cranes following wildebeest, slow-motion splashes as they ford crocodile-infested waters, whispered narration by Maasai elders. Now they cross by faith. The room exhaled, leaning forward. At the Q&A, someone asked, "Where can we see more?" I looked out at the eager faces and felt the hum of something greater than myself: impact. Tonight, I sit backstage at the Emmys, gown swishing, logic fading, as the announcer's voice drifts through the curtain. And now the award for Outstanding Documentary Series. The roar of the audience swells. My palms itch as I edge forward, stepping into a golden spotlight. They laughed at my dream job, but in moments I'll accept an Emmy on national TV, proof that if you chase what sets your heart on fire, one day the world will watch. And this is only the beginning.